Hi, I'm Dr. Leslie Tay. Welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're gonna do a crowd favorite, Sio Bak. So I've been making Sio Bak for many years now, and along the way I keep picking up new tips from talking to the hawkers and the roast specialists. So today I want to share with you everything that I've known so far to make the perfect Sio Bak with a really crispy rind. Oh. Now that you're spending more time at home, you probably noticed that your electrical bills have gone up. Maybe it's time to switch to another supplier like Senoko, where you can get really good rates. And today we got a special promo code for you for additional savings. Don't be intimidated by Sio Bak. Actually, Sio Bak is very easy to do at home. It does take a bit of time and planning, because you need to buy the meat the day before you're gonna have your Sio Bak, so that it's got enough time to marinate in the fridge. So in this recipe, I'll show you how to prepare the pork, how to marinate it, and then how to roast it. First of all, you gotta start with a piece of pork belly. This is about 2 kilograms. 1 kilogram is just a little bit too small, I feel, because you have all the seasoning at the side. By the time you cut off the sides, what you're left with is only the part in the middle. So if you're going to do roast pork, do 2 kilograms. It takes the same amount of time, and you got extra roast pork you can keep in the fridge for other purposes. The main thing is you want to have a piece of pork belly with a nice piece of skin. The skin should be longer or wider than the meat itself, because when you cook it, the skin is going to shrink. You want to try to get the upper part of the pork belly, that means where the ribs are. These are, you can see the ribs here and some of the soft bone here. So you want to be able to see a nice even layer of fat and lean, so that when you roast your pork, you'll be nice and juicy on the inside. The first step is to cook the skin of the pork. So gently lower the pork belly into the hot water. Be very careful. Make sure you point it away from you and don't splash the hot water, right? So you want to simmer this for about 3 to 5 minutes. While the pork is cooking, let's do the seasoning rub. What we need is 2 tablespoons of table salt, 1 tablespoon of white pepper, 2 tablespoons of ginger powder. If you can't get hold of ginger powder, you can leave it out, that's fine. 2 teaspoons of 5-spice powder. This is 2 teaspoons of MSG. If you don't want to add MSG, that's fine. But don't complain that it doesn't taste like outside. There are plenty of different ways of doing spice rubs, and I've tried a lot of different methods, and I finally decided that this is the right mix for me. Alright, 5 minutes is up. Let's turn off the heat and remove the pork. Okay. We're going to cool the pork down. So that first step is basically to soften the skin so that we can cook it. Okay, so now the pork is all cooled down. Let's remove it from the water. And now, the most enjoyable part of the Sio Bak process. You get to use this. Now, there's been some confusion in the past about when to poke the pork, whether you should do it before you boil or after. Answer is after. Why? Because after boiling the pork skin becomes very soft. So when you poke, it's much easier. You want to stab it as many times as possible. You can't stab it too much, but make sure you get to the edges, right? Don't forget about the edges. Make sure your finger is not in the way. How deep do you want to stab it? You want to stab it really deep, because in between the skin layer and the meat layer is this layer of fat. When you roast the pork, what will happen is air bubbles are going to develop in that fat layer. And if you don't have enough bubbles, the air bubble will lift up the skin from the meat. And that's why it's not so nice to eat when the skin is lifted from the meat. This is the reason why you want to poke the skin. So the skin side is ready. Let's do the seasoning. So what we want to do now is we're going to do a few cuts into the innermost layer of the pork. Just about a 1 centimeter slice. Okay, just through that first layer of meat. And it's important to do this because if you don't do this, the meat will curl. And slitting the pork like this will also give the marinade more surface area to penetrate into the meat. So just make a few cuts this way, horizontally as well as vertically. Now the pork is nicely slit, it's nice and relaxed. It's not going to curl too much when it roasts in the oven. So we're just going to sprinkle the seasoning powder all over the meat. Okay. massage it into the grooves. Make sure you get some seasoning powder on the sides like this. Okay, we're almost done. One more thing to do before we leave it in the fridge. Now, just put it into a box, like so. On the skin side, we want to sprinkle a little bit of baking soda or sodium bicarbonate. This will help to really give it a nice crisp. Just evenly rub your sodium bicarb followed by some salt. Okay, don't worry about all this salt because it's all going to come off. This is just going to help draw out some moisture from the skin as well as to help crisp up the skin. So our pork belly is all ready. All you need to do now is tent it loosely with some baking paper. And now you don't want to trap it tight because you want air to circulate, right? So when it's in the fridge, the seasoning will penetrate into the meat and the air will circulate and dry up the skin. That's the secret to the Sio Bak. You need the skin to be really, really dry. Then it'll be very, very crispy. So I'll see you again tomorrow, but for you it will be about 1 second. Welcome back! So the Sio Bak has marinated in the fridge overnight and now we are ready to prepare it for roasting. Alright, so this is what the pork looks like after marinating overnight. First thing you need to do is to get rid of all that excess salt. So I'm just using a brush to brush away all the salt. Okay, you can see it's very nice and dry already. You need to get your skin really, really dry. And we're going to brush on some vinegar. This is just rice vinegar, or you can use whatever vinegar. The vinegar is acid, the sodium bicarb is base. So you can see all the little bubbles. It neutralizes all that sodium bicarbonate. This is optional. We want the pork skin to be as flat as possible. So what we're going to use is some skewers. I'm just going to skewer the pork like so. And the second skewer the other direction so that you keep the pork straight. Now we're just going to add some water to the bottom of the tray. So the water will help to keep the pork moist and also prevent the juices from staining the tray. So now it's going to go into the preheated oven. We preheat the oven to 150 degrees and we're going to cook it for 45 minutes. And then following that, another 45 minutes at 180 degrees. Okay, so that's the first part of the roasting process. So right now I'm putting the oven to grill mode, full grill, as hot as you can get it. I'm going to put this back in and this is where the fun starts, right? This is where the skin is going to start popping up. Okay, it's almost done. So you can see that there's quite a little bit of charring, right? But that's what we want. This is the last part of the whole process. What we're going to do is we're going to scrape off all the burnt bit. And by doing this, you're actually thinning out the skin. And this is, I think, a very critical part of the whole Sio Bak process. Make sure that you have a really nice and thin skin so that you can really crunch. So using a serrated knife like this, you scrape off the burnt parts and the top of the pork skin. You can hear how crispy it is. And now I'm just going to spread some oil over the top. One last roast under the grill, maybe for a minute or two, just to give it a nice even color. Okay, so our Sio Bak is finally done. Just gotta remove the skewers. Okay, there you go. So the temptation is to cut into it right away, but if you do that, all the juice will come running out. So maybe wait about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, just let it cool and relax before we cut into it. It's finally time to cut into it. Okay, let's go. Look at that skin. It's really, really thin and it's super duper crisp. It's just the skin. Listen to the crunch. I hope you hear that. It's as crispy as keropok, okay? Really. So there you go. Making sio bak at home isn't very difficult, right? It took me so long, okay? I had to go and talk to so many people, but I reviewed everything to you so they can get it right the first time. So make sure you give it a try. Happy cooking.